So good morning, welcome also from my side to our 12th conference. Today with us we have customers, many have been part of this community for more than a decade, partners who've built a business around Checkmk, community contributors who have helped shape our platform over the years, and also first-time users who are here for the first time. In the end, you are the reason we do what we do, so thank you for being with us. When I think about the broader industry, the IT industry, there is one constant, and that is change. There's constant technological development. It seems this development is really accelerating, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. One of the most relevant trends for us over the last decade was that IT essentially has gone hybrid. Most of the people that I talk to, most of the organizations I see have a mix of on-prem and private cloud and public cloud, multi-cloud, basically every imaginable flavor in between those spectrums. And the initial drive from this pure on-prem world into this hybrid world was the need for speed and efficiency. The cloud provided elasticity, it also provided operational simplicity, and so many companies with a scarce technical resource could focus their experts on what matters most, which was their core business. At the same time, in many cases, they became also faster. And this race, or this growth, has really accelerated over the last years with the start of this AI race. It's almost daily that we read the newspaper and see another announcement by Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, or others about a major investment taken. And if you look at the large LLM providers, they are all typically serving their models from the public cloud, so further fueling this trend. And to get a feel of the size of the investments, one way to look is at the annual investments, or the 2026 investments, that 4 of the major tech firms, that is Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta, are doing this year. And the planned investment for these companies is $700 billion. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 7 times the amount those same 4 companies spent just 4 years ago. It's also, in nominal terms, approximately the same amount that NASA has had at its budget over its entire 60 years of existence. So when NASA, the space agency, brought astronauts to the moon, space shuttles into Earth orbit, or satellites to uncover the mysteries of our solar system, this is the same amount that these 4 companies will spend this year, or roughly half the amount if we adjust for inflation. So it's a huge undertaking. It's the biggest IT investment cycle in history. At the same time, with all this hype talk and now the cloud and AI talk, something more silent is also true. And that is that on-premise is actually not going anywhere. And there are valid reasons for that. There are regulatory requirements that in many industries or geographies mandate where data is processed or where data is stored. In times of geopolitical uncertainty, where we have lots of these days, data sovereignty makes an ever more important part also of the political discussion. There are technological topics such as legacy systems that are simply hard to port into the cloud. And last not least, there's the notion of cost. Some systems are simply very expensive to run in a public cloud environment. And for all these reasons, on-premise is here to stay as well. And these 2 factors, sort of the rise of cloud and AI, on the other hand, that on-premises will maintain here, comes back to where I started. Hybrid is the primary dominant notion for almost every organization for the long term. And with that come 2 interrelated challenges. The first one is that simply IT complexity is going up and up every year. If you think about setups with private cloud, multi-cloud, legacy system, Kubernetes, microservices, that becomes ever more daunting. And at the same time, headcount in IT has actually not grown at the same rate. In fact, it has actually been stagnant in many organizations. And so you are faced with the challenge of providing more uptime, more performance, in a time where downtime has become more expensive than ever, in a time where your end customers perceive any glitch in performance very quickly, and you need to deliver on these tighter targets with an ever smaller team, or at least not a larger team. And so how do you deliver against these tight margins? And one way to do that is why we're here today, is monitoring and observability. It's one of the cornerstones, or has been for a long time, of providing reliable and performant IT. But there are many vendors out there that provide observability and monitoring solutions. So why Checkmk? And in my simple mind, I cluster all of these vendors in two very basic categories. The first one is what I would call full stack platforms. These are typically providers with many thousands of employees who over the time build SaaS first or SaaS only offers with all these different monitoring lenses, logs, traces, infrastructure monitoring, synthetic monitoring, etc. But they come with serious drawbacks. One is because there is so much money to be earned in the cloud, there is little focus on hybrid setups. So hybrid visibility is actually very low. Second is that costs are very high. So the price tag and the very complex pricing model associated with many of those tools result in you exceeding budgets often 2 or 3 times. The third one is that if you are in a regulated environment or where data sovereignty is important, well then this SaaS first or SaaS only approach might not be the one that is relevant for you. Now on the other side, you have what I would call point solutions. Typically much smaller vendors focusing on a specific aspect, network monitoring, synthetic monitoring. And by now, most of these vendors are under investment, often more a legacy tool. And that is because they do not provide you with a full stack visibility, so it's hard to pinpoint the root cause. They often have lost track in following modern technologies, so cloud native technologies they often do not support. And so while they may seem economical, they are not the tool of your choice. And so you are stuck with sort of a difficult choice. Either you choose something more powerful that may or may not fit your specific needs, or you choose something economical that will not fit your needs. And so with Checkmk, we close that bridge, what we call closing the observability gap. So we are here to essentially offer you a tool that is a full stack view into your IT. We're focused on a hybrid setup deployed at your choice, self-hosted or as a SaaS tool, and at a cost level that you can sustain as you grow. That's essentially our mission. With Checkmk 2.5, our latest release, we have gone a long step in filling this gap between these two extremes. That is because we've now basically completed a full stack offering from infrastructure to application observability to user experience. It is focused on the hybrid world, and we invested every layer of that stack to let you ingest any data, transform it easily, analyze it in depth, and get the insights you need to resolve your root causes or problems, issues faster than ever before. The slogan for this is Unified IT Observability for the Hybrid World, for on-premise and cloud. Now, how did we get there over the last years? Because for us, this was a journey. And if I think about our industry, I always think about 2 dimensions. One is sort of the stack, infrastructure, applications, the user experience of that application. And the second is, where are we actually monitoring? In the data center, so on premises, or on the public cloud. And for many years, our focus was hybrid IT monitoring. We started in infrastructure in the data center. Many years ago, we started investing into monitoring public clouds and cloud-native infrastructure. And last year, we've also launched a SaaS offering that complements our self-hosted offering. But we knew this full stack notion would become ever more important since the complexity of IT rises ever more. And so it's always harder to pinpoint the actual problem. So we started the journey a while back by adding synthetic monitoring, starting from the top, from the end user's view of the application, and integrated that very natively into our platform. But we still had this very important gap, application observability. With 2.5, we now closed this gap and now have one full stack observability platform at your disposal. We closed that by expanding further the open telemetry integration that we introduced in 2.4 that lets you scrape or lets you collect open telemetry metrics and scrape Prometheus metrics. And we complemented this with a new data backend, one that is highly performant and observability optimized, and so for us also the backbone for these new observability offers. Yeah, for us, this is a key milestone, and Martin and Frida will talk you in the next session about what we did more precisely. The second major milestone that we achieved for us was that we completed our cloud offering, Checkmk Cloud, the SaaS offer. When we launched that last year, it was already very strong on the cloud monitoring side, but it lacked actually that area which is naturally our strength, hybrid observability. Because it had three major gaps when we launched it. The first one, it did not offer SNMP monitoring. So you could essentially monitor your servers on premises from the cloud, but not your networks, and that obviously doesn't really work for most of you. Second, we did not yet have application observability. And thirdly, also more important for cloud and SaaS tools, we yet lacked AI capabilities. And we've closed all those gaps over the last year. First, we introduced a new component. It's called the Checkmk Relay that lets you monitor now basically all of your on-premise network structure that you cannot monitor with an agent in a very easy fashion. It's also very relevant actually for your self-hosted versions. Secondly, we closed the application observability gap for OpenTelemetry. And thirdly, we introduced our first embedded AI feature. It's called Explain with AI, and its purpose is to help you analyze an incident. Yeah? What is the root cause, and what remediation actions can I take? It's your partner on that journey. Now with that, you basically have a new solution at your disposal that comes with the convenience of a SaaS solution, but is the only tool in our view with deep hybrid visibility. It was built for very effortless deployment and has sort of the highest degree of automation in our world. And last but not least, it's obviously built for the highest security compliance. If you are in Europe, your data will be hosted in Europe, more specifically in Frankfurt. If you are in the US, your data will be hosted in the US, more specifically in Virginia at this point in time. Yeah? Cherry on top, AI-powered troubleshooting. Now, there are obviously many more features that we built in 2.5 that are very relevant to you, but I don't want to spoil anything. We'll be directly dive into this after this talk. So let me rather spend the last 2 or 3 minutes onto the topic of the last 2 or 3 years, which is AI. Now, many in this audience have some reservations around AI. These are very valid reservations, of course. But on the other hand, we are seeing these massive investments. The technological change is real. And we are also by now getting basically daily requests from you or from prospects as to how you can work with Checkmk with AI. And so in our view, AI will be your thought partner. And the primary use case that we want AI to solve for you is solving issues faster. Because this is, in the end, the main purpose of any monitoring and observability solution. Yeah? It does that by working with you through the data, forming hypotheses of the problem, and proposing solutions before you actually haven't started that on your own. And you are the human in the loop to actually take action. In addition, there are other use cases around configuration and around operations that simply make your life easier. And these two will complement each other as we grow. Now, in terms of our investments for any AI to be useful, the underlying principles say that the platform and the data is sensible. And so our core investments will remain focused on Checkmk as a platform as you know it every day. But with respect to AI, we are following two paths. The first is we are building an API layer for agents, an MCP server, basically. With a user experience that is not optimized for developer, but actually for an agent. So it looks very different than a REST API. And this means that for an agent, our tool will essentially be headless. It's a headless platform where the agent interacts with this API that complements the user interface that we have today. This MCP server can be used with any LLM of your choice. You can use it with Claude, with Anthropic, with any self-hosted LLM if you want. So this is your foundation. But obviously, in many cases, you don't want to connect Claude to Checkmk. You want to work with it directly. And so to complement this, we are embedding further AI assistance into Checkmk to directly make use of that functionality for the use cases I just described. In terms of investment this year, roughly 85% of our investments goes into the Checkmk core, as you know it, and 15% we've reserved for AI-focused investments along these two streams I just outlined. Do you have to use it? Of course not, but many of you are waiting for it. Now with that full stack mission complete and our journey on this AI world also started, we've basically starting a new journey. 2.5 sowed the seeds of that part. And in our view, the roadmap we are now proposing is so tremendous, so I hope you like it, that our next version will actually be a full release cycle. It will be Checkmk 3.0. And it will work on two major areas. We call that vision autonomous observability, A, on the agentic parts I just described, and B, on building out the different observability lenses to make Checkmk a more richer platform, an even more richer platform than it is today. We started in 2.5 by adding metrics-based observability, I spoke about it. In 3.0, we want to go more in depth on the network, and we'll add NetFlow and over time more network performance monitoring as a new data source into Checkmk natively. And going forward, the next step on the road for us is log management, expanding the more narrow capabilities of the event console to provide you with more depth as you solve your issues. Now, since 2009, when we did the first Checkmk release, the first open source release, we've come a long way now. We are serving more than 5,000 customers in over 100 countries, and that's on top to the tens of thousands of users who are using our community product. But fundamentally, the way we like to interact with you hasn't changed. We are engineers at heart. We like to shape the product with you. And we still believe our platform needs to earn your trust every day. And that's why this conference is so important for us, because it's the one time in the year when we have 2, or for many of you, 3 full days together to exchange on where we are heading, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, to make this a better platform for all of us. So we hope that you use that time to learn about what's new in 2.5, what we plan for the roadmap, that you discuss with us like you always do in very frank and open discussions, and that in the end, we all have a great time. Checkmk is about one thing, making sure IT just runs so your business can focus on what it does best, which is serving your own customers. Now, what I did today is provide also a bit the marketing framing for the 2 days that follow. So many of you are now longing to get into the tech depths, and that will actually start now. Our next session will be the new Checkmk 2.5 with Afrida, our VP Product Marketing, followed by Martin, our Chief Product Officer, who will lead you through all those details. Let's have a great time together. Thank you.